Once upon a time, in a meadow where the stars grew close enough to touch, there lived a unicorn with a silver horn and a very special garden. Long, long ago, people across Europe and Persia told stories of a creature called the unicorn. It was described as a white horse with a single spiraling horn of pure ivory. Ancient writers believed this horn could purify water and heal sickness. So, our unicorn, whose name was Luma, had a horn that truly glowed like moonlight on still water. Luma lived at the edge of an ancient forest, where the trees whispered to each other in the breeze. Every morning she would walk to her garden. It was not an ordinary garden. Each flower in it had a meaning, a secret message the old flower tellers once used to send to friends and loved one. In one corner grew bright yellow sunflowers. Luma had planted them because, in the old language of flowers, a tradition called floriography that was very popular in Victorian England, sunflowers meant loyalty and adoration. She had planted them to honor her oldest friends, the oak trees. Next to the sunflowers were deep blue forget-me-nots. In old European folk tradition, forget-me-nots were given to those you wished to remember always. Luma had planted these for the river that ran nearby, because it was the river that had first given her water when she was very young and thirsty. Then there were red roses. Roses have been symbols of love and beauty for thousands of years. The ancient Romans scattered rose petals at celebrations, and even Cleopatra of Egypt was said to have filled her rooms with rose petals. Luma grew her roses to remind the garden that beauty itself was worth cherishing. One quiet afternoon, a gentle wind carried something unusual into the garden. It was a single white seed, no bigger than a raindrop, spiraling down from the sky. Luma watched it drift and land right in the center of the garden, in a patch of bare, soft earth. Luma knelt down and looked at the seed very carefully. She had never seen one like it before. It was round and pearly white, and it seemed to hum very softly, like a lullaby just below hearing. She cupped it gently in her nose and carried it to the bare patch of earth. She pressed it into the soil with one careful hoof. Then she walked to the pond, dipped her glowing horn into the water, just as the old stories always said a unicorn's horn could make water pure and kind, and carried drops of that water back to the seed in the earth. That night, Luma slept beside her garden. The moon rose high and full above her. In many old traditions across Asia and Europe, the full moon was believed to help seeds stir and wake in the earth. Farmers for centuries would plant by the phases of the moon, trusting its quiet pull. By morning, a tiny green shoot had pushed its way up through the soil. It was no taller than a pine cone, but it stood perfectly straight. Luma stepped close and breathed on it very gently. The shoot seemed to shiver with happiness and grew just a little taller. Days passed. The shoot grew into a slender stem. Then leaves unfurled, wide round leaves the color of sea glass. Luma watered it every morning. She sang to it very softly. Scientists have found that plants can respond to vibrations in the air, and some gardeners have believed for centuries that talking to plants helps them grow. One evening, a small hedgehog wandered into the garden. In European folklore, hedgehogs were thought to be wise little animals who knew the secrets of the earth. This one sniffed carefully at the new plant, and then sat down beside it as if choosing to guard it through the night. Next came a pair of white doves, who landed in the sunflowers and watched the new plant with bright, curious eyes. Doves have been symbols of peace in many cultures for thousands of years. The ancient Greeks associated them with Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and they appear in stories from India to the Middle East as messengers of gentle news. Then a silver fox appeared at the garden gate. In Japanese folklore, foxes called kitsune were known as magical, wise creatures who could carry wishes from one place to another. This fox sat very still at the gate and watched the mysterious plant as though it already knew what was about to happen. Luma looked around at her garden. The hedgehog, the doves, and the fox had all gathered around the new plant. She felt a deep calm settle over her, the way the air feels just before the first drops of monsoon rain, full of promise, quiet and waiting. That night, under the light of a crescent moon, the plant did something wonderful. It opened. A single blossom unfurled at the very top of the stem, white as fresh snow, perfectly round, with petals that caught the moonlight and held it like a small silver bowl. And from the center of the flower rose the softest, most beautiful scent. In real life, night-blooming flowers like jasmine and moonflowers release their fragrance after dark. This is because the moths that carry their pollen are creatures of the night, and the flowers perfume the air to call them near. Luma leaned close to the flower. And then something she had never seen before happened. Inside the white petals, tiny lights began to glow, warm and golden, like embers in a dying fire that still have enough warmth to keep you comfortable. One by one, the lights pulsed softly. Each little light, Luma slowly understood, was a wish. A real, true wish, not the sort you shout at birthday candles, but the soft kind you think when everything is quiet. The wish a farmer sends out when he looks at dry soil and hopes for rain. The wish a child breathes when they hold a hand they love. This was the climax of Luma's long, patient tending. For in old Celtic and Norse traditions, unicorns were believed to be drawn to purity and kindness, and only in a place where true care had been given could something truly magical take root and bloom. Gently, one by one, the little lights floated up from the flower and drifted into the night sky. They rose higher and higher until they joined the stars, and if you looked very carefully, you might notice that some stars seemed to shimmer in a slightly warmer gold than others. Those, the old stories say, are wishes that found their way home. The flower stayed. It bloomed every single night from then on. And every morning, Luma tended her garden just as carefully as before, watering the sunflowers for loyalty, the forget-me-nots for remembrance, the red roses for beauty, and the white wish flower for all the quiet hopes of the world. The hedgehog found a warm spot beneath the wish flower every evening. The doves built a nest in the sunflowers. The silver fox visited each full moon, sitting quietly at the gate. The garden became a place where every creature felt, without knowing quite why, that things would be all right. And Luma? She curled up in the soft grass at the very center of her garden, her silver horn resting gently on the earth, and she closed her eyes. The stars shimmered warmly above. The flowers breathed their quiet perfume into the cool night air. And the whole garden, and the whole wide world rested. Sweet dreams, the end.